68 college basketball teams, 67 games, 3 weeks, and $1 billion. For the first time in the history of March Madness, the NCAA will receive more than $1 billion just for the right to broadcast this tournament. $1 billion from one sporting event, played by unpaid amateurs. Well, almost unpaid. More on that later. Welcome to the Cap Sheet, the business behind the game. Let's start with where the money comes from. In 2010, the NCAA signed a 14-year deal with CBS and Turner Broadcasting, worth $10.8 billion. At the time, it was the largest deal in college sports history. Then, in 2016, they extended it by 8 more years for an additional $8.8 billion. That deal runs through 2032. Built into that contract are annual escalators, automatic increases that push the rights fee a little higher every single year. In 2025, CBS and Turner paid $995 million. In 2026, they pay $1,020 million. The first time the tournament has ever crossed the billion-dollar threshold for broadcast rights alone. Here is the thing, though. When the NCAA signed that 2016 extension, industry analysts later concluded they left $9.27 billion on the table. $9 billion. By locking in before the streaming wars drove rights fees to record levels, the NCAA committed to a deal worth far less than what the open market would have paid. The deal expires in 2032. That negotiation will be one of the most valuable in the history of college sports. So CBS and Turner write the NCAA a check for over $1 billion. Where does it go? The NCAA does not keep it. Nearly all of it flows back out to member schools and conferences through one of the most complicated distribution systems in sports. It is called the unit system. Here's how it works. Every game a team plays in the tournament earns 1 unit for its conference. Win in the first round, 1 unit. Win again in the second round, another unit. Make the Sweet 16, another unit. Elite 8, another unit. Final 4, another unit. New in 2026, for the first time, reaching the national championship game earns a unit. And winning the championship earns 1 more. Each unit is worth approximately $2 million, paid out over 6 years at roughly $350,000 per year. In 2026, approximately $270 million will be distributed to conferences through this system. The conference then distributes it to its member schools, usually split evenly across all schools in the conference, regardless of whether your school made the tournament or not. What this means in practice: a school in the SEC benefits financially from every other SEC team that wins in March. A mid-major school that pulls off one upset could bring its entire conference $2 million paid out over the next 6 years. That is why making the tournament matters financially, even if you lose in the first round. And that is why conferences fight so hard to get as many of their teams into the bracket as possible. Now here is where the numbers get even bigger. The $1 billion CBS and Turner pay the NCAA, that is just the rights fee. On top of that, the same 2 companies turn around and sell advertising during the tournament. 67 games, 3 weeks of continuous live television, billions of people watching. Television networks earn approximately $1.4 billion in advertising revenue from March Madness each year. A 30-second commercial during the Final Four can cost over $100,000. So to recap, CBS and Turner pay $1 billion for the rights. Then they make $1.4 billion in ads. The tournament is profitable for the broadcasters before a single ball is tipped. Meanwhile, what does the NCAA keep for itself? In 2025, the NCAA reported $1.57 billion in total revenue, with $1.12 billion coming from media deals. The organization distributes the vast majority of that back to its member schools. The NCAA keeps roughly 40% to fund its own operations, everything from officiating programs to student assistance funds to running 89 other championships beyond basketball. The tournament is not just the NCAA's biggest event. It is the engine that funds almost everything else they do. Now for the question you have been waiting for. The players. For most of March Madness's history, the answer was simple and blunt. $1 billion in broadcast rights, $1.4 billion in advertising. Players received $0 from tournament revenue. Zero. That started changing in 2021, when the Supreme Court ruled unanimously against the NCAA in a case called NCAA versus Alston. Then, in June 2025, a settlement in a case called House versus NCAA fundamentally changed the model. For the first time, schools are now allowed to pay athletes directly. Each school can distribute up to $20.5 million per year in revenue sharing to its athletes, rising 4% annually. NIL, name, image, and likeness deals, allow players to sign endorsement contracts with outside brands. BYU's freshman A.J. DeBonsa has an NIL valuation of $4.2 million. Duke's Cameron Boozer, $2.2 million. So the era of zero compensation is officially over. But here is the critical distinction. The tournament's television revenue still does not flow directly to the players who play in it. The billion-dollar check goes to the NCAA, then to conferences, then to schools, then to athletic departments. Whether any of that reaches a player still depends entirely on the decisions made by their individual school. The system has changed, but the structure that separates tournament revenue from player pay, that structure is still very much intact. One more number before we go. The women's tournament. For decades, it was treated as a financial afterthought. Then Caitlin Clark happened. The 2025 Women's Championship averaged more viewers than the Men's Championship for the first time in history. On the back of that, the NCAA signed an 8-year, $920 million deal with ESPN for the women's tournament, averaging $115 million per year. That is more than triple the previous deal. March Madness is no longer just a men's basketball event. It is a two-tournament business, and the smaller tournament is catching up fast. The business behind the game. That is what we do here. Subscribe if you want to understand how the money actually works in sports. New video every Tuesday. And our free newsletter goes deeper every week. Link is in the description. Next week, we are going inside Augusta National. The Masters is the most profitable 4 days in golf, and Augusta National runs it with almost no outside sponsorship, no naming rights, and no public financial disclosure. We will explain exactly how they do it and why it works. See you Tuesday.